So here we are, the second webinar I've done. Hey Wally, how you doing? Hey Silver, thanks for finding me. You guys have better detective skills than I do. Cool. Right, here we are. Is there anything that I can help anybody with before I go off on an initial ramble and ignore everybody for a bit? So I was thinking today about how people get really hung up in the diet for autoimmunity. And I did this for a couple of years. And I was completely obsessed with everything. Obviously, all the wrong things, all the vegetarian and vegan stuff and juicing and things like that. But then a friend of mine came around and he said, why aren't you looking into the emotional stuff? Why aren't you looking into the light stuff? And it's interesting, actually, because, you know, Jack Kruse, he always says, if you understand the light, you understand everything. And he's absolutely spot on. Because if we don't have our circadian biology in check, then of course none of the diet stuff's going to work. But why is it so important to understand the light? Because if you don't understand the seasons, then you end up eating Cocoa Pops and bananas in the winter and you get sick in the first place. And so maybe we have to go further into carnivory to get better. But we don't have to do that in the first place, do we? Because if we eat seasonally and locally. So it's all about light. It's all about light, magnetism, deuterium, water. Graham Lang, hello Graham. Talk about how it helped your mood. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Well, when I was trying to heal up and I was very sick and I was going through all the sort of veganism and vegetarian times, I was very depressed. I would say almost suicidal at times. And I thought, well, this is because of what's happening to me. This is because of the arthritis, that kind of thing. And after a while, I realized that when I would have a flare up of the arthritis, actually the depression would hit first. And obviously it's a quicker thing, it's a subtler thing, so it manifests quicker. But a lot of people don't notice that. They think they're just depressed because of the disease that's manifested, the pain or whatever that they've got. But actually, when I noticed that the mood was coming first, the suicidal or the depressed mood was coming first, and then switched to a keto diet first of all, and then a carnivore diet, I noticed that the mood was stabilizing. It stabilizes in exactly the same way as the energy stabilizes, you know, because when we're running on carbs and all that kind of thing, we have these ups and downs during the day. And the same kind of thing can happen with the same thing can happen with the emotions. You know, if you're getting all that waves of inflammation, waves of sugar highs and sugar lows, the emotions tend to go with it, and they're very changeable. But now I find a very, very stable emotional landscape. You know, nothing particularly upsets me. Even if it upsets me, it doesn't upset me, if you can understand. Either it's gone very quickly, or the severity of the perceived problem is an awful lot less. So yeah, it definitely reduces in tandem with the inflammation. I've seen it again and again. So many people depressed. So many, even people who haven't developed physical symptoms, you know, particularly coming straight from the vegan world, where that kind of thing seems to be rife. So Kelly, you say you also had severe depression and anxiety. Do you think that was, when you say you also had severe depression and anxiety, was that on your on another kind of diet? Now going for more light, decreasing inflammation through diet, have piles of turd to work on now, Ichi-san. We all have piles of turd to work on. That's what we're here for. That's what life's about. That's what being a human is about. It's you're not unique in that. Never feel unique in that. You're just going through your absolutely natural, predetermined path. You know, this is a path full of turds, and in the end, well, in the meantime, we get to just quite enjoy the smell of the turds, because you know we get excited in the end that these turds cropping up can be a pointer to something much better. It's everything's a blessing. Every cloud has a silver lining. So this is why I'm so into illness being such a blessing in a way, to lead us to all this kind of stuff that we'd never otherwise have seen. And we're going back to the mood thing. I see all the vegans so you know, it's very rare to see one of them on their channels not talking about having some kind of depressive or manic illness, you know, a bipolar or something like that that's hit them. Yeah, you're right. All the vegans seem so depressed. It's you know, their brains are not being fed with enough saturated fat, and they're not being fed with the DHA, and so it becomes very difficult for them to see what the diet's doing to the rest of the rest of the body. I had exactly the same thing. I was, you know, years on juiced stuff and greens and whatever, and you become it sort of gives you Dunning-Kruger effect. You think you're really much of an expert on this kind of thing, and of course you're not. It's just it's just that you've studied the wrong stuff and you're convinced of it now, and it's difficult to look beyond that, I think, when you become that kind of emotionally fragile snowflake. And I think we've all been like that. The demons still visit, yeah, less often. Hey, I can't pronounce your name, but you say caviar trumps Prozac. You're absolutely spot on. It definitely does. I never got into any of the meds. I never took them. I was never even prescribed them. I was actually, I guess, back in the early 80s, when I blew my brain out with far too many psilocybin mushrooms. I was prescribed something, but I figured if drugs had got me into that trouble in the first place, I wasn't going to use them to get me out, which was nice. Yeah, Zilva, thank you for the clarification on the name. That's a great help. That really helps me. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that can upset that mental state, but if the gut's gone, it's going to come alongside with everything. I think there's an old saying, isn't there, that there's pain and then there's suffering, and they're two completely different things. Now, pain we can all take. We're all equipped to take it. We're all equipped to take that kind of pain and learn from it, as we should do. But once the gut's broken and the suffering's there, and you have the wrong attitude to the pain, like you go listen to your doctor and the doctor says you're incurable and you've got to take these medications for the rest of your life, you know, you're going to be depressed. That's really going to upset you. But it's not the case. It's not the case at all. You can get past that, and believe me, it all comes into order when everything else comes into order. Okay, Akito Rose. My autistic boy's depression and anxiety disorder is so much better. He's engaging in life again, hoping we can resolve his tics. That's beautiful. Isn't that wonderful? Because I think there's such a genius, you know, among autistic people, and if you can get rid of all the negative sides of it and just distill out that genius, that's fantastic. York, but who has got time to eat only raw meat and fat? It takes forever to get all your calories in. Well, York, I don't eat all raw meat and fat. And it certainly doesn't take forever to get all your calories in, because, you know, you can have a fatty steak and all your calories are in, and it takes 2 seconds to cook it. So I don't really see that one. I think it's an incredibly simple way to eat, you know, much easier than having all those pans boiling away with pulses and vegetables and grains and whatever, like I used to have, and all that washing up. And you eat fewer times a day. You know, you can eat once or twice a day and you're absolutely full and satisfied. So honestly, I don't think that I don't think that's anything. Yeah, Ichi-san, you don't count calories anymore? No, neither do I. I never count calories. I think it's I think, you know, if you're really stalled and whatever, and you know your thyroid's okay, you've had that checked, and you're still eating too much butter all over the place and you're not losing weight, maybe it might be good to look at calories. But really, our bodies tell us, don't they? You know, our bodies tell us when we're hungry. Our bodies tell us when we're full. And you know, you don't need to look much further than that. It's so incredibly simple. York, it is a simple way to eat, but I am over 6 foot and a raw meal takes me 3 times longer to eat than a cooked meal. So York, eat a cooked meal then. You know, have you got any reason to be eating raw? Raw is fine, but why would you be eating it? Have you found that you haven't found your health goals on cooked? Some people say that. I didn't. I was fine. I eat a little mouthful of raw now and again, but not that much. You need lots of food. Yeah, but I'm sure you do. But I think the easiest way to get it is on a carnivore diet. So Wally says, how much does the meal timing or fasting play or even be concerned? Wally, I think fasting, you know, I think it's very useful when you're eating a lot of plants. And I did it all the time. I used to fast for 1, 2, 3 days, 5 days, up to 11 days. But I ended up losing all my muscle because I kept coming back to the vegetables and the juiced greens and all that kind of thing, and the inflammation would hit again. So I became frightened of eating, you know. But once you're into a carnivore diet or a very low carb diet, if you can take the green veg or whatever, it's not so important because you kind of fast automatically, you know, because you run so long on the fats. I don't think it's anything you need to be concerned about. Again, I think it's just intuition from the body. Meal timing can be important. If I come back in late at night from a gig and I'm hungry and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't eat. I think, well, I'll have a big breakfast instead because I don't like to go to bed with anything in my stomach, even if it's really good food. It can trigger all sorts of responses and it ruins your sleep and that kind of thing. So I won't eat at 1 o'clock in the morning, but the next morning I might have a big breakfast, which I don't normally have, you know? So it completely depends. Listen to your body. It will fast in the way it needs to fast once you get rid of the addictions, you know? It's the way, if it's still craving Haagen-Dazs, it doesn't mean to say you need to feed it. We've all got those addictions, you know, buried a bit. What have we got? York, okay, thanks. That I always hear it's best to eat raw, but it doesn't work for me to do it 100%. Thanks for the reply. Yeah, you absolutely don't need to do it all the time. I really don't think so. I think the people who've tried it have usually tried cooked meat first and it hasn't worked for them. So unless you've got some particular issue that the raw thing is essential, if you don't like it, don't eat it, you know? There's nothing wrong with cooked food. I think I've been looking into this a lot lately, and I think the nutrient breakdown of cooked food over raw is kind of minimal, you know. At least I don't have any nutritional deficiencies that I know of, and I've been tested for a few, you know, the ones that I suspect. It does, you know, unless you're burning it to a crisp all over, I don't think it's a problem. It's interesting. It's something that Paul Saladino was saying the other day, and this was very interesting. It's like people say that mTOR pathway gets activated and you've got more risk of cancer if you're cooking and burning your meat and all that kind of thing. But he made the point that if you eat meat, you're activating mTOR pathway for about 30 or 40 minutes after a meal, and you're eating fewer meals. So you might be only activating it for, like, you know, 30 to 40 minutes a day, maybe twice a day. whereas insulin triggers mTOR pathway more than eating meat does. So it's not mentioned in the concept of the carb eaters who are triggering their mTOR pathway, which is supposed to cause cancer, an awful lot more, because when they eat a carb-loaded meal, they're triggering their mTOR pathway with the insulin spike for like 3 or 4 hours, and if they're doing that 3 or 4 times a day, that's obviously more damaging. If mTOR is indeed damaging, that's more damaging than it would be triggering it 30-40 minutes a day with the food. So, you know, cooked versus raw, there's that argument with the mTOR pathway, also with the you know, whatever they're called, you know, the molecules that are created on burned meat. I mean, are you telling me that cavemen never burned their meat on the outside when they roasted it over a fire? It tastes beautiful like that. So I very much doubt if that causes cancer in the absence of any other mistakes. I think that's a bit of a paranoia. So yeah, one of your favorite foods is boiled beef tongue. I've not tried that. I'll have to give it a go. But so York, tell me, have you got any kind of health issues that you're trying to get rid of, that you're focusing on a raw diet? Ichisan, age stuff. What's that? So Zilba, do you think frozen food is bad? No, I don't. Yeah, there you go. Advanced glycolated end product. Thank you. Do you think frozen food is bad? Not really. No, I don't think so. I think that I think frozen food is probably pretty good. I did hear something again the other day that it's, you know, particularly if you're going to eat raw liver, freeze it for quite a long time so that there's not any parasites in it. But are the parasites as harmful as we think they are? Some of them are, obviously, but look at all the people who get well on this helminth therapy, introducing these hookworms and stuff and reversing their autoimmunity like that. You know, we've got a very complex microbiome with all the bacteria. Do we also have a complex microbiome involving parasites, or let's say symbiotic creatures? So it can help to get rid of that, I guess. So is frozen food bad? No, I don't think it is. You know, I mean, if you've got the meat and it's come from a good source and it comes frozen, most of ours isn't. We get it fresh, but for some reason, liver seems to come frozen an awful lot, and that's fine. That's really cool. Defrost that, cook it up. It's lovely. I've even tried it raw. I'm not a fan, York. I'm not a fan. So York, no health issues. Just trying to eat more healthy. Well, I don't see any reason why you need to go raw if you don't want to. You know, I've got nothing against raw at all, but you know, if you don't like it, don't eat it. You don't have to. Wally, your thoughts on organ meats being necessary and possibly supplementing with desiccated organ supplements from grass-fed animals? Okay. Well, I think there are a few things in organ meats, and I forget the list of them. Maybe vitamin A, maybe vitamin C. Maybe we do need some of those things. And they are more plentiful in organ meats. I hedge my bets. I don't like them particularly. They're all right. They're quite nice. And if I'm really hungry, they taste great. So I tend to eat them at the beginning of a meal. You know, I'll have them as a starter. I'll have a few bites of fish or a few bites of liver, and then I'll get onto my roast lamb or roast beef or steak or something. So a lot of people seem to be absolutely fine on just the muscle meats. The organ meats, yeah, particularly liver, I think you'll get everything you need from that, unless you're very sick. Maybe add some brains in. I think a very important thing is the connective tissue. So if you're only eating muscle meat, you might be lacking in the stuff to make collagen. So I like bone broth. I make it all the time. I think it's really nice. So it's not a problem to use it as a basis for gravies or whatever, which I say gravies. You know, we don't really put anything in it, maybe a bit of salt and pepper, and that's about it. Used to fill it full of butter, but I don't do that anymore. The desiccated organ supplements from grass-fed animals, like, they might be useful, but I have heard recently that per dose you get very, very few, very little bang for your buck. It's a lot better. It's a lot better to have it from actual food. Silver player, I've read there's collagen in eggs. Yeah, there is in egg yolks, I think. You correct me if I'm wrong on that. But again, I think it's it's much better to get it to get it from the liver. You know, I mean from the bone broth and connective tissues. You're not going to get everything you need from eggs, I wouldn't have thought. Presuming everything you need is what they say it is, because again, we're not what we eat, we're what we digest and absorb. So if you're eating a load of crap with all of that collagen, it's not really going to work. So it depends completely. Bal Duran, you say you drink wine at night. Do you know it strongly disrupts sleep quality and efficiency? I don't think it's worth it. You're absolutely right. But actually, I don't drink wine at night. Very, very rarely. I drink it in the middle of the day. You know, I'm lucky. I'm self-employed. If I decide that I've worked from 6 o'clock till midday, I can think, well, I'll have a couple of glasses of wine and I'll eat and I'll chill out for a bit and then I'll go back to work or whatever it is that I do. I like to make sure that it's worn off by bedtime if I do drink, and I don't pretend it's optimal. It certainly does me a lot less harm than all the carbs and breads used to do. But yes, it does disrupt sleep, and you're right. It's probably not worth it. I don't have any desire to go to bed with the effects of any alcohol on me at all. You're absolutely right. So Richard Byrne, how long would it take to relieve symptoms for autoimmune conditions on a carnivore diet? Richard, that's a bit of a how long is a piece of string question. It completely depends on how long you've had it, what meds you're on, what your emotional state is like, what your lifestyle is like, how many stresses you have. Okay, let's assume that, excuse me, let's assume that you're pretty healthy, you're pretty emotionally in balance, you understand about circadian biology, you're not flooding yourself with blue light and devices at night and loads of EMFs, and your main problem is your diet. So you go onto a carnivore diet. How long is it going to take before the symptoms are relieved? Again, it depends which autoimmune condition, but let's just say we're talking about arthritis, psoriatic or rheumatoid at the moment. I would say really fast. You know, that doesn't mean say you're healed, but if you're eating just ruminant animals and fatty ruminant cuts of meat from ruminant animals and water, and that's it, and you've got your sleep together and you're not bombarded with Wi-Fi and light, it's going to be very quick. I think you're going to find that within a week or two, you're going to notice incredible benefits, almost as good as fasting. Yeah. But you have to watch out. If you really have autoimmunity, you've got to watch out for a few other things. You know, you've got to watch out for eggs, even the yolks to start with. You've got to watch out for even high fat dairy, and you've got to watch out for chicken and pork. They can be pretty inflammatory. The chickens are never fed what they're supposed to eat, and so they're just like walking corn, really. So there we go. It depends. Can you specify a bit more later on which autoimmune condition you have? And let's have a look. Slevin. I tried doing a carnivore diet, but on my second day, I got a gallbladder attack. Do you have any advice avoiding this if I try it again? Okay, Slevin, right. The gallbladder thing's really interesting. It's because, you know, it's never because of the fat. It's never because of the meat. It's because we've had a low-fat diet. It's because the gallbladder has not been emptied properly, so it's got sludgy in there. And, you know, then eventually bits of that sludge calcify and you get gallstones. So the first thing that people do is say you have to be on a low-fat diet, and okay, this prevents attacks, but long term, it's going to it's going to make sure the gallbladder stays clogged up. So now there is a there is something that I go on about quite a bit, and if you look through my blog posts or YouTube channel, I'll probably talk about it in more detail. But there's something called a liver and gallbladder flush. Now I don't think that's so reliable for the gallbladder. I think it's hit and miss whether you get the stones out, and it's hit and miss whether one lodges in a bile duct and gives you an attack and lands you in hospital again. So I would say look into Google something called Michael Eads Protein Power, I believe his website is, and the article is called getting rid of gallstones without surgery or something like that. But Michael Eads Protein Power and Gallstones or Gallbladder will probably get you there. And this is a great article. It points out that I'm not a fan of drugs, but they have their uses. And there's one called ursodiol, and it actually breaks down the stones in the gallbladder. But they funnily enough, they don't prescribe it anymore, because on the diet that they recommend that people go to when they've got gallbladder problems, which is a low-fat diet, then the stones always come back. So they think it's useless, so they just rip the gallbladder out. But if you get the gallstones shrunk down with the ursodiol, then go on to a really high-fat, low-carb diet. You won't have any stones in there to provoke a gallbladder attack. But look into that. Michael Eads, he's got a fantastic article on it, and if you can get hold of that stuff, it definitely works. I've seen that it works. Yeah. Okay. What do we got? Zilver. I know someone who experienced the same thing. I've heard it's stones that are already there that's coming out. Yes, that's true, Zilver. But quite often the stones don't come out. They just lodge, and then it just gets worse and worse. And so then they can't eat the diet that would have actually stopped them getting the gallstones in the first place. So then the docs blame it on that kind of diet and say fat's bad. It's not. It's fat is if you'd always been emptying the gallbladder with a high fat diet, you wouldn't have the problems with the gallstones calcifying in there. Richard Burns, psoriasis. Okay, so you've got psoriasis. Yeah, the skin conditions, well, I see them react in different ways. I had some psoriasis on a bit on elbows here and there, rashes here and there. I particularly had something called pompholix on the palm of my hand, where which it was here, and it would go all the way around here, and it was like little tiny dots, like little blisters, and it was very painful. It was, I couldn't like put my hands in washing up with soap or anything. It was really sore for ages, and it's kind of related. It's an autoimmune skin condition, and that disappeared way before the joints sorted themselves out. But how long does it take for psoriasis? That's again very different. I've seen some cases that are very stubborn, and I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I've seen some people say it's miraculously vanished, or it's down to tiny little patches or whatever. But I get the feeling, because we're wrestling with my little boy's skin, it's eczema rather than psoriasis. And whereas my daughter, who's 10 now, we fixed that very quickly when she was that age. But with him, it's more difficult. Is it because they've put up a mobile phone mast like 70 yards from our back garden, and things are more difficult to do these days? There's more artificial light, there's more Wi-Fi around in general, there's more. It could be anything, a huge amount of factors we're fighting against these days. So I would say with psoriasis, I don't know, suck it and see. Get onto that carnivore diet and see what happens. And you tell me, you report back to me and tell me how you're doing with it, because I would say on a dietary level, it's got to be the best way. But do you need to do something else? I don't know where you are at the moment. It doesn't say what country you're in or whatever, but get out in the sun as much as possible. Get it in the sun loads, and obviously a carnivore diet helps you to synthesize the vitamin D and whatever else you need. So I think the combination of all of that will really help. Nikuru, hi. Balduran, how do you maximize satiety if I eat carnivore 1 meal a day? I could eat up to 6 pounds, but I'd gain weight this way. Start with straight fat before meat. Okay, well, 1 meal a day. I think the 1 meal a day thing should be dictated by your hunger. Really, I think 1 meal a day is great if that's when you get hungry and you can eat enough. Some days I can, but some days I feel that I just can't get enough in on 1 meal a day. So I eat 2 meals a day, you know, usually about 10 o'clock and about 4 or 5 o'clock. So as for whether you could eat up to 6 pounds of meat, that's spectacular. Well done. I don't think I'd eat that. Would you gain weight this way? Well, if that's all you ate, you probably wouldn't actually. If it was a lot of it was fat, you might not lose weight, but I don't think you'd gain weight there, unless of course you're training and you're gaining muscle, which is great. Start with straight fat before meat. I would say if you're seriously autoimmune, you need to be favoring the fat, but really, you know, protein is the most important. I would eat protein to satiety before I added in extra fat, but then I'd have it both together. You know, I mean, what I find is my body tells me how much fat I want, like or how much fat it needs, and if I feel a desire for lamb chops that are full of fat, then I'll go buy some of those. And if I want a flat iron steak that doesn't have so much fat on it, then I'll go with that. I think your body almost knows, you know, once you've educated it, what it wants and what it wants in proportion. Yeah. So just go with your body. You know, there's no point of piling 6 pounds of meat in unless you're a competitive eater or whatever. And you know, like what's her name, who was on the HBO podcast recently, who eats slight sort of light woman, slightly built, and eats 22 pounds of meat at a sitting. But then again, she also does, you know, eat a bucket full of chilies or whatever. So it's just, I'm trying a teaspoon of coconut oil if I get munchy. Okay. Yeah, I ended up feeling an awful lot better when I cut the coconut oil out. We used to get great big buckets of it. You know, like 25-kilo buckets, and the delivery man didn't like us very much. You know, he'd struggle down the garden path with it or whatever. And we've still got a load of empty buckets in the garage where we used to eat all of that stuff. But we haven't bought it for ages. Just maybe little tubs for oil pulling or putting on our skin. But I haven't eaten it for a long time. I feel an awful lot better without coconut oil, and I just feel more satiated on animal products. But it depends where you live. You know, are you living somewhere where coconut oil is local? You know, do coconuts grow in your back garden? If they don't, then I'd kind of question having coconut oil, really. I mean, obviously, if you're healthy, it's wherever you live in the world, that's certainly coconut oil's not going to break you. So if you like it, go for it. But, you know, if you've got something to fix, it's not quite, it's often a circadian mismatch, you know? So, York, is it possible to get vitamin D on a sunny winter day in West Europe with a fair skin, or is the UV just too low? From my understanding, the UV is too low. I think one of the gauges is if your shadow is longer than you are tall, you're not creating vitamin D. That's what I hear. But having said that, I think we probably get a bit too hung up on vitamin D. And I think that I think it's not the only good thing we get from the sun. I think the sun does a hell of a lot of things for us. So, yeah. I think you know, like the importance that Jack always says, you get bare feet and you get out in the sun and you look at the rising sun for 15 minutes in the morning, you know, not directly at it, obviously, but you know, in the direction of it. Just get it in your eyes and get it on as much of your body as you can. I think there's other things in the sun apart from just vitamin D that's fantastic for us. So get out at any time of day, you know, any time of day. Yin yang, what is a great meal replacement? Not having a meal. I don't know. Sex, playing drums, riding motorcycles, going fishing. It's a good meal replacement. I expect you mean, you know, is there something that's some kind of protein shake or something like that? I don't have anything to do with them. I think if you need a meal replacement in between meals, you're eating the wrong food at your meals. So just eat as much as you want and then wait until you're hungry again. I wouldn't bother with meal replacements. You know, if it's a replacement for a meal, then it's not a meal really, is it? So York, I can still burn in winter, no problem. Yeah, you do oil pulling for teeth, it's saying. Yeah, I think it's great. I do it every morning. York, you say you can still burn in winter, no problem. Yeah, I used to burn all the time, anytime, anywhere, anytime I went out in the sun. I'd just be burning straight away. And I found that on a keto diet, and then particularly on a carnivore diet, and I've heard this a lot, it takes your sun tolerance right up. You can stay out in the sun for far longer. So seriously, just get onto some better diet, get some DHA in there, get some saturated fat in there, and you'll find that your sun tolerance will go up an awful lot. It happens to pretty much everybody, as far as I can see. So yeah, there you go. So that's why I use it. Just I'll keep what you said in mind and eat more meat. Which is saying, yeah, okay, cool. Yin yang. God bless you and your family, Sars. Very sweet. Thank you very much. So it's saying you're doing more keto than straight carnivore right now. Okay, that's cool. You know, if that's getting you there, that's wonderful. If you've got any issues, just you know, I never say everybody should go carnivore. I just say that you know, ruminant animals is probably our reset food. We try all these elimination diets and we do all this kind of thing, but really the thing to come back to is just meat. And when you've done that, then you can reintroduce other stuff and see what happens. And then you'll have much more of an answer, you know, about what might be affecting you still. Silver, I've had the same burning problem. I hope it's gotten better this summer. And Nikuru, I get sunburned very easily. Yeah, I did for a long time. So I didn't as a kid. I see pictures of myself as a kid, and I was this amazing dark brown, golden color, and something that I couldn't really have dreamed of in recent years. But it's kind of coming back a bit. You know, I couldn't get tanned at all for about 15 years, and I couldn't even go in the sun. Okay. Jason Tucker. Hi, Jason. What is the best way to ground without a copper wire? Thank you for the tough love approach. I almost forgot my power in PC Wonderland. Okay, Jason. Well, what's the best way to ground without a copper wire? Do you mean with your computer? With like an earthing mat or something, or do you mean with your shoes or grounding your car? It's difficult to say, really. I think, you know what I found in recent years, with grounding, I feel that, you know, we used to use grounding sheets on the bed. We used to use earthing mats with the computer and whatever, and plug them into the mains, first of all, into the earth in the mains, which is never a very good idea. And then running it outside the window with a copper wire and whatever, and a copper rod, and stick it in the ground. But honestly, I just don't see anything better than being outside bare feet. And I reckon if you get outside barefooted, you know, every half an hour, it's difficult if you're in a job, you know, and your boss is there breathing down your neck and whatever. I'm lucky I can do it if I want to. So You know, if I just think about it and I think I've had enough computer time, I can just go outside with bare feet and stand there for 5 minutes and come back in. And I would say that would do more good than any of these fancy appliances that you get. I wish it didn't, because I'd love to sell all these appliances. I'd love to be an affiliate for them all, but I can't say that. You know, my message is real simple: get back to our ancestral heritage. And they, you know, they didn't worry that if they were in a hammock that they weren't grounded or something like that. They just did it, and it did no harm. And I think if you get outside a lot, it discharges whatever that energy is as much as it can. There's loads of other benefits, I'm sure, you know, for being barefoot on the grass a few times a day. I'd just go with that. I really would. Okay, Foxtail, are your joints 100% pain-free? Do you have some residual joint pain left in your joints from the RA? No, I don't. No residual joint pain whatsoever. However, I do have joint damage in 2 joints. My right wrist was affected probably since the early 90s, and it's lost some mobility. I can show you here. Like my left wrist, here's my left wrist, normal wrist, it bends that far. Here's my right wrist, it bends about that far. And it would only bend that far the other way as well for ages. But I managed to get the mobility back. But you tell me, like, you know, that's lost mobility and it's got some damage in there. But is there any inflammation? You know, could I do this? Could I do this and this and this and this? Couldn't do that. You know, if it was still painful, there's no pain in there. It's just that something has solidified a bit from the 20 years where it was inflamed on and off. I have a left knee where the synovium is a little bit thickened, so it kind of looks a bit weird. And because I've been lazy, I never quite managed to build that left quad up again, but I'm working on that now since the inflammation's out of the knee. But yeah, yes, it can get completely out. If I do, it's so long since I really cheated enough to trigger any symptoms, but I'm not sure what would happen now. But I remember a few times when I've eaten chicken or something, I'll get something like a tingle in my left knee, something like that. But bearing in mind, I had fingers like sausages. I had this wrist where I couldn't even move it, you know, even to move it, I couldn't pick anything up. I couldn't make a fist, you know. As an arthritic, you will know that to do that, you know, it's impossible. You can't snap your fingers when you've got inflammation. My ankles were the worst. They were really massive and filled with broken glass, it felt like. So they're absolutely, I can't even imagine there was ever anything in there. So yes. Foxtail. So Foxtail, do you have RA at the moment? Are you sort of looking for a bit of confirmation on there, wondering whether this is craziness, or have you had some success yourself? Bang something in further down, I'll move on. So it's saying with dietary changes, type 2 is main focus now, as well as joints. Well, you know, type 2 is pretty easy. I'm sure you'll have great success with that. The joints can take a little bit longer. So it's saying need to decrease inflammation. So no carbs, but the transition is testing times. Getting somewhat better self-discipline with time. Yeah, I've got no self-discipline, none at all. I'm terrible, which is why I got myself in such a mess. You know, if I hadn't have had such horrendous symptoms, I would, I'd probably never have done this. I kind of knew about it already, but it's amazing what we put up with until we are truly in agony and in bed. So, yeah, there you go. Bit of motivation. Maybe you need a bit more agony for some motivation. Go for it. Eat even worse food. Get yourself some proper motivation. No, it's terrible advice. Ignore that. It's awful. Canelia, am I pronouncing this right? Sorry. Greetings from Swedenland up north. Stringing an old aria, cooking sausages and eggs, and fully enjoying your stream. It's a good Sunday. Thank you for putting the information out into the World Wide Web. You're welcome. An old aria, an aria bass. Is that? Okay, Jason Tucker. I thought maybe my hands on the ground from working in the sun, raking leaves, setting stones in the gardens. Yeah, you mean you think this might be causing it, or this might be quite a good thing for it. I don't know. Not quite sure about that one. Okay, well, no other questions have come up at the moment. I'm going to go back a little bit more to talk to Foxtail about these. Am I completely 100% pain free? Concerto guitar found in secondhand store. Nice. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, you know, I want to talk a bit about this joints being pain free, because I think it's really interesting. And you know, sometimes some joints can heal up before other joints, and this is where you get into the whole emotional side of stuff. I healed up my ankles with an emotional shift, and it was spectacular. My ankles, which are the worst joint on my body, preventing me from walking at all, really, some days, they healed up completely when I got rid of a certain emotional issue, when the other joints were really raging, which is supposed to be impossible. You know, according to a rheumatologist, they won't believe that. So yeah, I think that the quicker that you can do everything else, the quicker the joints are going to heal up. I think, you know, a carnivore diet can take the symptoms down maybe between 80 and 95%, pretty much across the board. And with some people, it cures it. But with others like me, you have to go a bit further, and then you start to pick off the different emotional things and light and all the subtler things until you get there, until you get the full results, because sometimes it doesn't come on just carnivore or even just keto or whatever it is that you're doing, you know. So you have to go further. Phil, do you like cats? Well, I mean, eating them or hanging out with them? I think they're hilarious. I think they're great. I don't own one, but I think they're fine. You know, there's that old saying, isn't there? They don't have owners, they have staff. And yeah, they're definitely a sort of cut above dogs in independence. But do I like it? Yeah, I think they're great, but I don't want to keep one particularly. Oh, Jason, grounding by accident. I see what you mean. Yeah, that's always going to be good, isn't it? Being outside. Okay, Foxtail. Yes, I have RA. I'm in your Facebook group. I'm doing the raw carnivore diet and feeling great. Just one joint that still has a tiny bit sore. Okay, how many joints did you have affected? And this one joint, I'd be very interested. Which one is it and why? So let me know which one it is that's still affected. That'll be fascinating. Listen, at this point, I wanted to say that just this for just for 24 hours, if anybody emails me who's on this call, or anybody, you know, sees it a little bit later or whatever, if you manage to get in a 24-hour thing, I wanna do some more consults, because I absolutely love them, and the results are just so great, and I make such good friends doing it, and it's lovely to be able to get really into depth. You know, I see these little questions, and I just want to ask 1,000 more to get to the bottom of it. So I'm going to give away some consults for a third off. So I usually do them for £75, and it runs as long as you like. You know, sometimes an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever you want. Let's get to the root of the problems. But if anybody wants a private consult, give me a shout. I'll take 10 at £50 a time. If anybody's interested in that, grab it within the next 24 hours. Book it. You don't have to have one within the next 24 hours. I'll be up. You know, I'll be useless. I'll be knackered. But you know, book it over the next couple of weeks or whatever, and I'll be really happy to talk to you. So I just wanted to say that. I forget to say it at the beginning because I'm useless at things like that. I just want to get on to the questions. But there we go. So it's a knuckle on my left hand index finger. That's interesting. Okay, Foxtail. Well, I have a real Bible that I go to for that kind of thing, which is called The Secret Language of Your Body by Inna Seagal. And it's kind of like, you know, the old Louise Hay things of relating different emotions to different parts of the body. And a lot of people think this is real woo, but I've seen it work so many times on me and on other people. And if you can find the emotional issue that's related to that particular joint, you can get an idea of it kind of from these books that trace that kind of thing. But often it's really unique to us and it doesn't quite follow the book. But it's not usually rocket science. It's usually the biggest emotional problem that you have at any given time, or the biggest fear or the biggest worry or something like that, is related to the worst physical symptom you have. So that's my biggest clue for you. If you look at the emotional upset that you might have, the main one is probably connected with the one joint that's still giving you some trouble. But that's not bad, eh? If you just got one little joint, one little knuckle left on your left hand, that's not bad, eh? You've done well. Yeah, I do. Yeah, Ashley, Noel, I'd love you. Yes, if anybody else wants to consult, that offer's still open. Just grab one. You know, I want to start doing a lot. I've done so many of them, but it's very cool to just do more. I love it. It's so rewarding. It's great chatting to people one-on-one. NF2 is a genetic inability to disarm internal growth. I'll send you an email about speaking to him. He's 85% carnivore, and I think you'd hit it off. That would be lovely. Yeah, I'd love to chat. I'll see what I can do about that. You know, I'm not a doc. I can't pretend to cure specific diseases, but I think I've come to a point where I can really look at somebody's lifestyle and diet and pick out the things that they're doing that's disconnecting them from that ancestral heritage where they're not supposed to have those diseases, you know. Yeah. So definitely, just look at all the things, look at all the different factors that can be keeping you away from health. That's all. It's just allowing the body to do it itself, you know. Lynn Knight, Phil, do you use a rebounder for lymph circulation? I have a Cellerciser brand that has corrected a walking limp I used to have. I'm also treating my RA with Remicade infusions every other month. Lynn, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, rebounder, yeah, I do have one, and I do use it, and I use it every now and again. Like, if I'm on the computer and I'm working, I might go outside, get my feet on the ground, and then I might have a little bounce on the rebounder, and then it kind of recharges you. Or if it's really, really pissing with rain or something outside, I might run up and down the stairs a few times and get on the rebounder and maybe sneak out the back door and put my feet on the ground for a bit, you know, get some proper light in. I don't know. But yeah, rebounders are great. I think they're excellent. I think they're great for lymph circulation. I think they're great for probably all kinds of things. So yeah, I think they're absolutely fantastic. But are they the cure for anything? No, I think they're, again, a polishing agent, you know, where the light and the diet and the emotions, I would say, are the three really big pillars of healing. And then to fine tune it, something like that, something like a rebounder, you know, you put all these things together, and I think that's great. I put it in my my autoimmunity course, the subtraction method. You know, I did a rebounder was maybe one of the things that I added in that subtraction method. So I think they're very, very useful. You're treating your RA with Remicade infusions every other month. Okay. You know, I think that it's again, it's your own choice. I never took the drugs. Well, I lie about that. I took the initial ones they gave me, but I never got onto the methotrexate or any of the biologics. I just figured there was a better way around it. So I think your inflammation markers will be normal with that. But honestly, Lynn, I don't think it's the best way around it. I think you should find a good doc that you can taper, who understands about a carnivore diet, and you should taper off it. Have you ever thought about using, if you really need something in the meantime, have you ever thought about using low-dose naltrexone? You know, Zofia Clements at Paleomedicina, they're not very keen on it. They say it creates a little bit of gut permeability, but for a lot of people in the medium term, you know, short term, maybe just to, you know, in that initial hit when they give you the steroids, it's a great relief, isn't it? You know, you get some prednisone in you and you think you're cured. Of course you're not. I've been through that. But, you know, long-term Remicade, I think low-dose naltrexone is probably an awful lot safer. And probably a lot cheaper. It depends whether you're paying for your own medical bills or not, I guess. But I'm not a great authority on Remicade, but I just think, you know, the body doesn't have arthritis from a deficiency of Remicade, does it? So, you know, see if you can get your power back. That's what I'd say. See if you can get off it. I'm not saying throw it in the bin. I'm saying work with your doctor to amaze them at your progress so that they will taper you off it. That's what I'm saying. I can't be seen to be saying to people throw their meds in the bin. You know, at some point I'm sure you all can. Yeah, Foxtail, the emotional aspect, it's really, really interesting. I would really definitely look at some you know, EFT, emotional freedom technique. I would really take in Byron Katie's website, which is one word, thework.com. She has some great videos of how she works on people with their false beliefs and their fears and whatever, you know, and you can apply it to yourself after a while when you can see how it works. It's very, very, very useful. Jason Tucker, dancing is good for lymph nodes. They need a bit of shaking. Yes, they do. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I only wish I could, but no doctors will agree with me. I'm in New England, USA. Lynn, go and have a look at lowdosenaltrexone.org. Low-dose naltrexone, one word, I think, .org. Anyway, if you Google it, you'll find about low-dose naltrexone. Have a look at it. You can find a doctor who will prescribe it. And, you know, I found it very useful until I got the diet absolutely right. And I probably took it for a couple of years. But then I tapered off it and I ended up only taking like one a week or one every 2 weeks. And it probably was doing absolutely no good at all. So now I don't need it at all. And, you know, if I'd have gone straight onto carnivore at that time, I don't think I'd have needed it anyway. It was probably just the last bits of veg and dairy and, you know, great big buckets fulls of heavy cream mixed with Greek yogurt and honey and raspberries that I was eating back then. So it's no wonder I had a little residual bit of trouble left, because I always do everything to excess. You know, I can't stop at one bowl of that. It has to be 3. I revisited places in my past. It helped a lot. Ichisan, yeah, that's with the emotional stuff. Definitely works. Sometimes the stuff in the present can lead through to the past. You know, if you're looking at your major problem, you know, your major emotional problem, try and trace it through to your major physical problem. You can often get taken down that rabbit hole into your childhood without having to dig so much. You know, just let yourself naturally be taken there. Just work in the present. You know. Nikuru, have you been addicted to sugar? How long does it take to get rid of the cravings? Is there anybody in the world who hasn't been addicted to sugar? I'm not sure there is. Of course I have. Absolutely. Totally addicted to every aspect of sugar. Have the cravings totally died down? 99%. I still have a bit of a twinge when I take some Greek yogurt with honey to my kids, if they have it sometimes, and I just want to go, oh, I just want a spoonful. But I feel better without even having a spoonful, so I don't. But do I think about it when it's not there? No. If someone leaves some dark chocolate around the house, providing it's not crap full of sugar and providing it's not got a load of soya in it, I might have a couple of squares, you know, a couple of times a month. But if there was dark chocolate in the house all the time, I'd probably eat it a lot more. But I can walk past it in a shop with no cravings, you know. And how long does it take to get rid of the cravings? Well, I'd say the worst time you're going to have is the first 30 days, but be aware that that's going to be the worst time you're going to have. People say it takes longer than that. People say it takes 30 days. It entirely depends. I also think it depends how strict you are. If you're having things like artificial sweeteners or the odd little bit of honey or something, just to, oh, I just want a little sweet taste or something, it's going to keep the cravings going for longer. The longer you go without it, the less you'll want it. So, you know, if you can make fully carnivore for 90 days, you're going to have a fraction of the cravings that you have now. So yeah, I have Lynn, I have per your book, but my PCP won't bite for it. I don't get you there, Lynn. Sorry, I'm being dim. Me too with chocolate. Yeah, chocolate's the worst one, I think. It's, yeah, everyone's saying chocolate. It's, you know, you can put a whole load of lollipops or sweets in front of me. I'm just not interested at all. But you leave me with some chocolate and you know, it might just get snaffled. Not if it's one of these regular sugary bars, but, you know, something 70% or above, I might have a couple of squares of it, but it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare. Jason, sugar is the gateway drug. It absolutely is. They had that thing, didn't they, when they got rats addicted to crack and sugar, and they found that if they put both in the cage, they go for the sugar first. So, yeah, yeah. I do wish chocolate was an awful lot better for you. I really do, because. But you know, again, the sugar thing. It can often have emotional triggers too. You've got to look. You've got to look at the points why you're emotional eating, you know, because it's something that I feel is really important with me. I turned it round to, I see food now absolutely as fuel. I really enjoy it, but I don't see it as entertainment. And I used to see it as entertainment all the time. Now, you know, if something goes in my mouth and it's entertainment, it's going to be some red wine maybe sometimes, you know, but for food, I don't think of that sort of lunchtime special offer at Pizza Hut and being able to eat all you can, which I used to, and that was the entertainment for the day. So when you get rid of the sugar cravings, you know, then you can see food in an entirely different way. But it's not always a matter of willpower, you know. It's you really should. You should work on finding the emotional causes of comfort eating and why it is that you're actually doing it. Because that hyperpalatable food, anything that's fat mixed with sugar, you're just going to eat it all day long if you get upset. So Lynn Knight, I'm doing okay though. I'm okay with Remicade as my blood work is so good and I feel so much better. RA is a beast. Keto, carnivore, and all the other biohacks being talked about are really helping me. Okay, but you know, Remicade, all of these things, they're mucking about with the body's chemistry, and you know, down the line they can have effects. You know, I'm not really sure with Remicade. I mean, I know more about methotrexate and the people who've had retinal detachments and the people who've had, you know, serious liver problems. You know, most of these things work against the liver. I don't know the action of Remicade. I really don't. But I see people also still on it who still have symptoms. So I'm thinking it can't be the miracle it's supposed to be. And to me, it's all about taking away the things that are causing it. The trouble with things like Remicade is they allow you to make mistakes that you made before, so you're not moving on. To me, the blessing of illness is listening to the symptoms, learning more about your body and your diet and about nature and how to be in line with it, and also your emotions. So you can put up with a little bit of pain short term, and you can go through all of that and come out the other side just far more knowledgeable, happier, more confident, no more hypochondria, you know, that kind of thing. Or you can cover it up. Oh, I'll cover up the symptoms with something. I don't care if it's safe. I think covering up the symptoms with drugs is you know, great short term if they're saving your life, great for a break now and again if you're really not getting anywhere. But you know, to do it really long term, I think it's almost an insult to the life process which is to grow and to learn and to understand ourselves. And illness is such a gateway into that, you know. So I think I think, you know, face a bit of pain, go through it, and see where it takes you, and see if you can get off that stuff. I like the things like Carnivore or even low-dose naltrexone that take the symptoms equally down, if you like, to about 15% or 5% or 10% or whatever it is with you. So then you've still got enough symptoms to look at, to learn from, to follow down rabbit holes, but it's not so much pain that you're desperately unhappy and you can't focus on anything, you know, because when you're in that much pain, you just you can't bear it and you can't get creative. So do something that leaves a little bit of those symptoms instead of something like a drug, which will bash the symptoms down as much as possible, and leave you with other symptoms too, so you're confused as to what is the disease and what's the drug. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't at the time when I was in the thick of it. I kind of thought it might be one day, but I didn't think it was a blessing, but it really is. So, you know, there's difference between pain and suffering, isn't there? We all have pain, but it depends whether we suffer from it. You can detach yourself from it. You can find ways of just observing the pain and learning from it. And strangely, when you put your attention on the pain, say, what is it you've got to teach me? It's in a quiet moment, you know, you sit there with your eyes shut and you've got a bad knee and you just really focus on that knee and go, what is it you're trying to teach me? And I know that sounds kind of woo-woo, but often you can get led to the problem that this red warning light on the instrument panel is trying to tell you. But another thing I always say is that if you took your car to the garage and there was a flashing warning light, and the mechanic smashed it with a hammer and said, yeah, you're all right, I put the light out now, off you go, you wouldn't pay him, would you? You want to know what was wrong. So this is drug therapy to me, that they just smash the warning lights, and for a short time you feel great, and yeah, the blood work might be good and whatever. But Lynn, I would persevere down that road in your own fashion. You know, I'm not one to say throw everything away, but you know, learn what you can here. If you're being inspired and on everybody else's channel and people who've done this before and got better, be inspired and go out there, and don't worry if a little bit of pain comes back. You know, the joint damage does not happen as fast as they tell you it does. Yeah. Lynn, I loved your discussion of deuterium. One more thing to worry about, but I'm glad to know about it. Yeah. I know I wouldn't worry about it. You know, if you're eating a high fat animal based diet, I don't think deuterium's much to worry about. Getting out in the sun wherever you can. So Canelia, I got a theory that stuff you can't stop eating induces a histamine and or inflammatory reaction. Chocolate, yogurt, or peanut butter are possible examples. I would say, yeah, you've probably got a point there. I don't know about histamine reactions. You know, I'm not sure quite what triggers that. I used to get horrendous hay fever, so I obviously had a reaction from grass pollen, which I don't seem to anymore. At least if I cut dairy out within 2 or 3 months of the hay fever season, I don't. Otherwise, I get the odd sniffle, but you know, no more agonizing, streaming, runny eyes and not being able to breathe. But yes, chocolate, yogurt, peanut butter. I mean, all those things you mentioned there are sort of mixes of carbs and fat, aren't they? So they're pretty addictive. Yeah, pain pills do mask the pain, Ichisan says, yeah. Lisa, heal yourself. Question. Any idea on having ammonia smelling urine and feeling toxic on the carnivore diet? Is there an issue? Excuse me. Or keep going with it? Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends how long you've been on it, I'd say. People report weird smelling pee and all kinds of odd things going on to start with. You see, the thing is, I honestly don't believe that there's any harm you can do yourself with the carnivore diet. I think it's a reset diet. So when you say, is there an issue or keep going with it? The only thing that I've kind of heard recently is maybe it might be better to taper off it gradually, off an ordinary diet gradually onto carnivore for some people with a lot of oxalate toxicity. But then again, how do you know really that you have a load of oxalate toxicity without trying it and then running into trouble like I did with kidney stones, sort of wondering if it was the fat and the meat? So if you're in some transition phase and you've got weird smelling urine and feeling toxic, I would say it's just going to pass because, you know, it's a reset diet, isn't it? If you're really concerned, you've got something really dramatic happening when you say feeling toxic. If it's just a little feeling of feeling a bit weird, I mean, yeah, you know, it mobilizes a lot of toxins, doesn't it? So they can whiz around the body for a while till they're expelled, particularly first 30 days. Some people have it easy, some people don't, but it's not the fault of the meat. It's just the body being allowed to release the crap. You know, again, I would say go to an understanding doc or a functional medicine doc if it persists, and get a test and see what's in there, see what's going on. It's I don't know. You have to get some testing on that if you're really worried and have serious discomfort. Otherwise, you know, I'm so confident in this now. I'm terrible. I sound terrible. I just don't get things tested. If I get a symptom, I just sort of read it, and it's fascinating. It's like a detective novel being opened up, you know? You think, okay, what could I be doing wrong? What can I take away that might be causing this? Okay, Zilva says, how do you get rid of eye floaters? Will they disappear in time on a good diet? Now, I don't know. I have to say that's one thing I haven't made much progress with. I've got floaters. I'm looking up at the window now. As I put my eyes side to side, I can see them whizzing around. They haven't got any worse in recent years, but they've been with me for many years. Is it possible to get rid of them? I don't know. I think that some people say they have, and something I'm going to try and that I haven't tried, and the bottle's been sitting there for about 2 months and I forget every single night, is castor oil eye drops. People are saying that this is put in at night. This is helping to get rid of floaters. Will it? I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I don't really mind mine. My brain cancels them out. As long as I don't notice any great new ones or anything, like my retina's detached or something, I don't know. So I don't know, but yeah. I mean, give it a go. You give it a go too, and tell me. It's only cheap. Castor oil eye drops. See, you have a go. We'll both have a go. We'll compare notes, eh? So to Lisa, drink loads of water. Yeah, maybe. But again, you know, go with your thirst. Don't drink ridiculous amounts of water, but definitely make sure you're hydrated. Again, on a carnivore diet, if you're eating saturated fat, if you've seen my deuterium video or researched into anybody else's talks on deuterium, which are all much cleverer than mine, you'll know that you hydrate yourself from saturated fat, and that helps the well, it provides the fuel for the mitochondria to create its own deuterium depleted water. So that can, if you're drinking tons and tons of water and it's quite high deuterium, then it's not actually hydrating you in the way that you think it is. It might be better to just drink according to thirst and eat a low deuterium diet, and that will probably hydrate a lot better. So, Sam, Will, is it okay to use spices on a carnivore diet? Again, yes and no. You know, it's not a strict thing. It's listening to your body. All I would say is the only way you're going to ever answer that for yourself is to go back to ruminant animals and water, like beef, lamb, water, maybe some fish, for 30 days, and just water and salt. And then introduce the spices, and you tell me what you think. You know, introduce the first thing that's most important to you or whatever. But within the spices, there are certain problems. Like I used to take great gulps of turmeric, you know, to reduce inflammation when my joints were bad. And now I realize that there's a hell of a lot of oxalates in turmeric, and I was probably just adding to my kidney stones. Other spices, you know, I know are not so bad. You know, you've got your pepper and regular pepper and things like cardamom, coriander, ginger, things like that. Not so bad. But if you're autoimmune, then definitely avoid the things that come from nightshades or peppers, you know, like chili peppers and chili powder and stuff like that. Paprika can be a problem. Paprika or whatever, how you pronounce it. But for some people, no. If you're not broken and you've got great health and your gut's in great condition and you have meat and all the spices you want, I very much doubt if it's going to hurt you if that's all you're eating. But there you go. Urine and sweat smelt like the cat box. Yeah, you can smell a bit weird for a while and then find that the smell completely dies down. I don't, you know, my missus has a great nose for smells, and she always says that I don't smell, so, and neither does she. She's an amazing smelling woman. Water enemas help as well as drinking a lot of water. Lisa, you know, I've given myself probably in excess of 300 enemas when I was trying to heal myself up. And I honestly think all it did was try and get rid of the vegetables more quickly in my body that were hurting me in the first place. I think they muck about with the lower gut bacteria. I just think they're a waste of time. If you go on a carnivore diet, all these things tend to sort of, it's almost too simplistic, because I remember when I used to tell people about enemas and, you know, colonics and this herb and this pill and this Ayurvedic medicine and this is, you know, all this, excuse me, ridiculous knowledge that I accumulated. But now I don't eat any plants, don't need any of that, don't need probiotics, I just don't need that stuff. It's really that simple. Is it really that simple? You know. Any need for adding potassium? And not unless you know that you've got some kind of potassium deficiency. I think on a carnivore diet, you're going to get enough potassium. You know, it's pretty safe adding magnesium now and again, you know, some magnesium malate or magnesium citrate or something, or magnesium L-threonate if you've got some neurological issue. That can be useful for a while. And it doesn't seem to have any dangers, but you know, if you overdo the potassium, you can kind of get in trouble. So unless you think that you have a deficiency and you've been tested for it, and then you're also tracking blood work or whatever, I wouldn't muck about too much with potassium supplements, no. But sodium and magnesium maybe, particularly sodium. You know, if you got any cramps or keto flu-y symptoms, just take some, you know, Himalayan salt, or that's been discredited recently, hasn't it? Everything's discredited. Some Celtic salt or whatever it's called, red salt or pink salt or whatever it's called. I've never tried that, but I think it's people in the States seem to have it. But something like that in a glass of water. Yeah. So, Ichisan, I did have uric acid crystals in urinalysis, so kidney stones. No kidney stones, but maybe a precursor. So I started drinking more water. Went to reverse osmosis water. Yeah, you know, reverse osmosis. I'm not a great expert on that. I think it's fine. This is what I drink actually recently. It's just some spring water in a glass bottle that's sparkling. I love it. It's funny, after a while when your taste refine, that almost is as nice as drinking Coca-Cola or whatever you used to drink before. Trouble is, it makes you burp on webinars, you know. But so excuse me for that. I've not gone vegan and got a load of gas. It's just the fizzy water. Have you done any research on riboflavin deficiency and RA? No, I haven't. I know absolutely nothing about it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that something that comes from like plants or something? But anyway, I don't know. I'm gonna have to leave that one. You're gonna have to do your own research on that one, I think, Rita. But as far as I know, and as far as I feel great. So I don't think I've got any deficiencies. And I don't know whether it's the main thing to focus on for RA. I think, you know, if you cover everything else and get the diet right and get the light right and get the absorption right in the gut, you're not going to get any deficiencies of anything. And chasing around these individual deficiencies, it can sometimes be a little bit of a little bit of a wild goose chase, you know. You know, I love chili. Yeah, so do I. But like Zilda says, chili is full of anti-nutrients. There's a lot of problems with it. It's a shame. So I'm going to filter and drink about 3 liters a day, more in the summer and when thirsty. Yeah, you know, I'd just say drink when you're thirsty. You know, I honestly think the body tells us what we need. It really does. You know, once you get rid of the addictions, the sugars and stuff. So Monique Fontenot, what's your thoughts on collagen powders? You know, again, I've not tried them, only from what I've heard from real kind of experts like Paul Saladino. He talks about collagen powders. If you look at a very recent video, well, it's probably on YouTube, but it's he's on the Carnivore cast, the podcast, and he talks an awful lot about collagen. So I'm going to point you to that. So Paul Saladino, very recent interview on the Carnivore cast. Have a listen to that about collagen, and he goes into the powders as well in great detail. And I think it's really worth listening to. I think, again, in nature, there's other things, and he was also talking about something that is a precursor, or you know, even if you eat the collagen, you can't really use it if you don't have such and such as well. And so my science is sketchy on that. I'm going to have to listen to that podcast again to understand what he's on about. But if you're having bone broth, you know, and you're making it with good bones with connective tissue left on the end, I think you're getting all the collagen you need, to be honest. So I really wouldn't worry about it. Having to spend on collagen powders, spend it on meat. Yeah, Redmond salt is good. Yeah, you have to send me some. I need some. Do you dry fast sometimes? I only tried it once. I've done a lot of water fasting, and I only tried dry fasting once. I did about 72 hours, and it did what I wanted it to do. I had a Baker's cyst at the back of my knee, and it burst, and it dumped all the fluid down my calf, and they said it's going to be weeks before that's reabsorbed. And it was painful, you know, calf muscle was painful. And I did some dry fasting, and it kind of mopped it up, because it forces the body to go look for water in cells that are damaged, because it'll blow them up first and drain them of the water, you know, to hydrate the rest. And so it was mopping up everything it could, and it was a great move, actually. It just emptied the calf of fluid. It was quite a fascinating experiment, but I haven't done it since. Again, if I'd have known about it when I was veggie, I'm sure I'd have done a load of dry fasting. But right now, I eat according to hunger, and I drink according to thirst, and I ignore it if it comes in too late at night, and that's it. Wait till the morning, and that's just my rule. It's as simple as that. I you know, dry fasting. I think it's great if you want to play about with it. If you've got some reason to do it, you got some dodgy area in your body where there's some bad cells that you can't quite seem to clear with a carnivore diet or whatever. Because, like Laszlo Boris said, I was talking to him about the sort of thickened synovium in my knee, and I said, look, there's no inflammation in there anymore. It's just like there's something a bit stuck and a bit gloopy about it. And he said it can take years after you've got the inflammation down to actually deplete deuterium from certain parts of the body. They accumulate, and they end up so stuck there that it takes a long time to get rid of them. And I think in a case like that, dry fasting might be really, really useful. You know, to get really deep into that. and maybe not, you don't even need to do it in one hit, maybe just 1 day a week of dry fasting or something, and just chip away at that issue. But if you have no issue like that, I don't think dry fasting is necessary. Yeah, B2, yeah, there you go. You see, Def, I'm gonna have to pass on that B2 thing. I'm really not up on the B vitamins, you know, apart from the more obvious ones. Sam Will, what do you think about raw dairy, sir? Well, I think it's an awful lot better than pasteurized dairy, but I don't think anybody needs it, and some people react badly to it. And, you know, some people just lactose intolerant, and some people are also sensitive to the casein. So they will get sensitive even to heavy cream, butter, Greek yogurt, stuff like that. Some people even ghee. So I would say it's individual. Some people are fine with it. I thought I was fine with it until about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And I gave up butter to support my missus, who is on the PKD diet from Paleomedicina for Graves' disease. And with the PKD diet, it's reversing so quickly. It's amazing. And I said, listen, I'll give up butter with you. Just to support you, because I was eating a load of it. I love it. It's just great stuff, isn't it? You put it on anything. And I thought I was fine, but I was quite lean. But now, I mean, people have been watching my latest videos and they go, have you gone vegan or something? Why are you so skinny? It was honestly just giving up butter, and I've just gone really lean. You can see like my neck is sort of all defined, and, you know, and I've got tiny little waist again. All the last of the fat has disappeared, and I'm like teeny. And that was just from giving up the butter. So it was causing some kind of inflammation in there somewhere, because it probably is just almost as many calories of tallow now. I don't think it's a calorie thing. And also sinuses cleared up and stuff. So again, nobody's going to really know until they experiment on themselves. And the only way you're going to do that is to cut it out for a while and then carry on, you know. And reintroduce a few things, maybe starting with ghee, then butter, and then hardened cheeses, and then cream, and then yogurt, in that kind of order as you go up the lactose scale. There you go. I wish dairy was great, because I would just eat cream and cheese all day. I would make you know, sauces with cream and butter and cheese and tip it over steaks and eat that forever. But it's just not so great for me, so I don't do it at the moment. Will I eat it in future? Yeah, probably, but not into the quantities that I did before, because I like this feeling of being really lean. So, and it surprised me. It really surprised me what an effect that was. That only the butter, cutting it out, suddenly things were different. Yeah, Ichisan's saying he used to be a biohacker of sorts, worried about this or that in supplements. I stopped doing that. It's too much anxiety and stress. Sunlight, magnetism, good water, grounding, outside every day. Bang on. There we go. Okay, Phil, I'll send you some. What are you sending me? Sending me some sunlight and good water. Sending me, I don't know. 30 sometimes, figure something. Let me see. Learning, Ichisan, learning from Bart, dairy is unnecessary if past a young age, i.e. babies, toddlers maybe, but I love it. That's harder diet tweak. It is. Yes, it is. You know, I mean, my ideal diet would be a big fatty load of meat, and then afterwards a bowl of 50-50 Greek yogurt with a few berries in it and some honey, and not even necessarily the berries. And it's absolutely brilliant. But once you push yourself that far and you've been that sick, then, you know, sometimes you kind of lose those privileges. So, you know, meat's absolutely delicious. It's great. I've just got to forget about the cream and the honey. Okay. What fat protein ratio? Oh, I see. Send me the Redmond salt. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. What fat to protein ratio do you recommend? It depends what you're trying to do. You know, if you're a bodybuilder or if you're trying to lose body fat, then you know, I would up the protein a bit more and you know, to sort of 50-50 with the fat or something. But then you can go kind of 80-20 if you've got kind of autoimmunity with the fat much higher. It depends on your goals, depends on your body composition. What do you want to do? What have you got to reverse? A higher fat diet is better for rebuilding the gut. A higher protein diet is better for building muscle, you know. But everybody needs fat for some kind of energy, or you're going to be in trouble. So I don't know exactly what my ratio is. I would say it's probably something in the range of 75% fat, 20%, 25% protein by calorie, not by gram. That would be pretty high. Effing salt Phil Carl on YouTube. Yeah, cool. Okay, guys, listen, I've been at it over an hour and a half now, I think. So I'll leave it at that, and maybe we'll reconvene another time. Please don't forget, anybody who wants a consult, email me info@pureactivity.net. It'll be underneath this video. You'll be able to see the links below. And you know, £50 for a consult, probably about this long, just you. Get to the root of your problems. It'll be fun. Tweak all the diet. See if we can get to some emotional stuff, whatever it is that you want to chat about. If anybody's up for that, if you book within the next 24 hours from this video, send it to me basically today or tomorrow, whatever your time zone is. If I get that email in asking for a consult, and then we'll arrange it, then I'll make sure that I will only charge you 2/3 of what I normally charge, and I think it's pretty cheap anyway. So anyway, guys, I think that's probably enough for today. And thank you so much for the great questions. You know, I just sit here dribbling if it wasn't for you guys prompting me. And thank you so much. So yeah, get onto my rheumatoid arthritis Facebook group if you're not on there, or you can find it through 100% Carnivore and Beyond or whatever, because it's a bit of a mouthful. I'll see if I can remember to put it in the video description afterwards, because again, the original stream wouldn't boot up. I actually know how to do it now, but it just wouldn't boot up, just left me with a spinny wheel. So that's cool, guys. I shall see you soon, and get on the group, ask some questions. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and prompting me and all that. And don't forget, £50 consultations. That's the offer for this week. It was 50% off the course last week, and a bunch of you bought that. So if anybody's listening who bought that autoimmunity, the subtraction method course, and I really want to hear back from you about it. You know, when you've been through it, and when you've you know, spent a month or two on it, send me a review. Send it on the Thinkific page. You know, don't put it, don't email me or anything like that. It's just where you bought it. Put the review on there. I'd like some more. I got some great ones from medical professionals, but not so many from people who've been on it. I hear a few things and people tell me this, but nobody's putting reviews together. I know it's boring. I don't do it either. Even if something's great, I go, yeah, and I'll mention it to a few friends. I won't bother to do a review. But bung me a review and give me a call next 24 hours for you know, a reduced rate consult. Look forward to talking to some of you. And yeah, if anybody doesn't know, the last few rooms left on our Carnivore and Beyond retreat in Spain at the end of the month. Now that's going to be excellent. If you just Google 100% Carnivore Eventbrite, you'll find the tickets. Or if you look on my website in the shop page at pureactivity.net, you'll find that. Have a look at the speakers. Have a look at what we're going to be doing. If anybody fancies nipping in and grabbing one of those rooms, then do that. We'd love to see you there. David Tomlinson, you are tremendously late. You're going straight into detention. That's awful. But anyway, you can replay it. It'll be up there in a minute, I guess. So cool, guys. Right, I'm off. Thank you so much again. And see you next time. Cheers. Bye.